$340. That's how much richer you got this month. You don't feel it though. You feel the opposite. Because 5 minutes ago you were watching someone's pool in Cancun. A drink with a little umbrella in it, a caption that says needed this. You closed the app. Didn't even like the post. Here's the thing. Nobody tells you at 25. Wealth doesn't post a story. It doesn't announce itself. It just sits there, in the dark, getting bigger while you scroll past someone else's vacation. And there are 8 signs it's already happening to you. Small ones. Boring ones. The kind you'd normally scroll right past, the way you scroll past a caption about someone else's Tuesday in paradise. Sunday morning. Coffee's still too hot to drink, so you're just holding the mug, both hands wrapped around it, waiting. You open the app anyway. Not out of anxiety, out of habit. The same reflex that makes you check the weather even when you already know it's going to rain. Total net worth, up $340 from last month. $340, that's not a headline. That's not something you'd text your roommate about. It's not even enough to cover a plane ticket to wherever that pool was. But something else happened underneath that number. Something you didn't have to do anything for. Your bank system watched you for 6 months. Watched every payment land on time, down to the day. Watched your balance never once dip below zero. Not even during the week your rent and your car insurance landed on the same Friday. It raised your credit limit by $500. Nobody called you. Nobody sent a congratulations email. There's no little trophy icon in the app. It just adjusted. Quietly, in the background, the way a plant gets a little taller, and you only notice when you compare it to the photo from 3 months ago. The system noticed you before you noticed yourself. Here's something worth understanding, because almost nobody explains it this plainly. A credit score isn't really about how much money you have. It's a record of whether you do what you said you'd do, over and over on a schedule nobody's watching. That's the entire test. Show up on the 15th, show up on the 1st. Do it again next month. The number is just the receipt. The person from the pool financed that car 18 months ago. 7% interest? Payment due on the 1st? Every single month, whether Cancun happened or not? Whether the flight was actually a good idea that month or not? Her net worth went down this year. Yours went up. She looks richer in a 9-second clip. You're richer in a way no clip will ever show because there's nothing to film. A number in an app isn't visual content. Nobody's making a reel out of an unchanged credit limit. Here's the part that's hard to sit with, doing this for the first time at 25, with no proof yet that any of it works. For the first few years, this is invisible. $300 here, negative $120 there, some month when the market dips and your account looks worse than it did in January. Some part of your brain keeps saying, this isn't working. If it were working, I'd feel something. It's working. You just can't see it yet. Nobody can this early. That's not a flaw in the plan. That's the whole plan. The parts of the plan that work the best are usually the parts that feel like nothing is happening. The number that means nothing to Instagram is the only number that means anything in 10 years. Every other Friday, $200 disappears from your paycheck before it even touches your checking account. You set it up 8 months ago. A Tuesday, during your lunch break, standing in the break room while your leftovers spun in the microwave. Took 4 minutes, maybe 5, most of which was spent trying to remember your own routing number. You haven't touched the settings since. Most weeks, you genuinely forget it's happening. You'll look at your paycheck stub, see a number that's $200 lower than what you expected, and for half a second think something's wrong, before you remember. Oh, right, that's mine. I sent it there myself. That forgetting isn't an accident. That's the entire design of the thing. Your coworker Danielle makes the same salary as you. Close enough it doesn't matter. Maybe $1,000 apart, before taxes. She always seems to have more spending money though. New sneakers every couple of months. A weekend trip with a countdown sticker on her story. Days ticking down until she's somewhere with better weather than here. She's not doing anything wrong. There's no version of this where she's the villain of the story. She just runs her savings differently. She saves whatever's left over at the end of the month. And there's rarely anything left over, because there's always something. A friend's birthday dinner nobody planned for. A phone case that cracked on the sidewalk. A subscription that renewed quietly in March and nobody remembered canceling. Here's the actual mechanism, if you want the honest version, instead of the motivational poster version. Willpower is a decision you make anew, every single time, under different conditions, while tired, while your bank balance is doing something distracting. Automation is a decision you make exactly once, while calm, in a break room, and then it runs without asking your permission again. You made your decision once, standing by that microwave. She has to make hers over and over, every month, from scratch, competing against everything else that month happens to throw at her. That's not a character flaw, that's just a much harder version of the same task, repeated 52 times a year instead of once. The $200 doesn't ask your permission anymore. It just leaves, quietly, the same way it did 8 months ago, the same way it'll do it next Friday whether you remember it exists or not. You didn't do anything today. That's the whole point. Group chat lights up around 6. Someone's ordering DoorDash, $42 split 4 ways plus tip, plus the fees that always sneak in at the end and somehow add up to more than the food. You've got rice and chicken from Sunday meal prep already portioned into containers stacked in the fridge door, the kind of dinner that took 20 minutes to make and doesn't feel like an event. You type "I'm good, thanks though," put the phone face down on the couch cushion next to you. You wait for the feeling. The one where everyone else is having a moment without you, laughing about something in a thread you're not part of, building an inside joke you'll be one step removed from tomorrow. It doesn't come. You reheat the chicken. 2 minutes in the microwave, the smell filling the kitchen the way it did on Sunday. You watch half an episode of something you've already seen twice. The group chat moves on to arguing about whether the delivery driver got lost. Nobody mentions you again. The evening continues at exactly the volume it was at before. Try to remember what you almost bought last Tuesday. Actually try. Sit with it for a second. You can't. It's gone. Whatever it was, it didn't matter enough to survive 7 days in your memory, which tells you something important about how much it would have actually added to your life if you'd bought it. That's not willpower. Willpower runs out by Thursday, every time, for everyone. It's not a personality trait, it's a battery, and batteries die. This is something else. This is your brain quietly recalibrating what things are actually worth, the way your eyes adjust to a dark room after standing in it long enough. Nobody warns you this is coming. There's no notification, no milestone badge, no little congratulatory pop-up. It just shows up on some random Tuesday. You say no to something, and instead of feeling deprived, you feel completely normal about it. That normal is the part almost nobody reaches. Most people spend their entire 20s either buying the thing and feeling briefly good about it, or not buying the thing and resenting themselves the whole night for wanting it. You did neither tonight. You just ate the chicken and went to bed at a reasonable hour. Quick pause here, because there's something the money videos never say out loud, and it's worth saying plainly instead of hiding it inside a montage of good decisions. This is going to feel lonely sometimes. Not sad. Lonely, which is a different thing and a harder one to name. You're not broke anymore. Not the way you were at 22, counting days until payday, doing math in the grocery store aisle. But you're not made it either. Nobody's writing songs about $16,900 in remaining student debt. There's no highlight reel for the amount left on a loan. You're in the middle. And the middle doesn't get a highlight reel because there's nothing dramatic enough in it to film. Too far ahead to relate to the group chat splitting a DoorDash order 4 ways. You skip it now easily without even feeling the pull. And something about that quietly puts distance between you and a conversation you used to be fully inside of. Too far behind to relate to anyone who actually has real money. You're not booking Cancun. You're probably not booking Cancun for a while yet, and there's no guarantee exactly when that changes. So you live in this strange middle stretch for what will probably be years, where almost nobody talks about what it's actually like. where the wins are too small to post and the struggles are too small to complain about out loud without sounding ungrateful. Nobody warns you about the middle. Stay there anyway. It's not a place you're stuck. It's just the place almost everyone building something has to pass through, quietly, without an audience. $18,400. That's what the student loan app showed in January. The number sitting there under a little progress bar that hadn't moved in a while. $16,900. That's what it shows now, in the same app on a Sunday night 11 months later. You paid extra 4 times this year. Not every month. You weren't disciplined enough for that, and you're honest with yourself about it. 4 times, whenever a paycheck happened to have a little room, whenever a bonus landed or a freelance gig paid out, and you didn't immediately find something else to do with it. It doesn't feel like winning. It genuinely doesn't. It feels like running backward, just to reach a starting line everyone else got handed for free. The ones whose parents covered tuition, the ones who graduated with nothing hanging over them. But here's the math nobody puts directly in front of you, the part that only shows up if you go looking for it. Every dollar of debt you kill is a dollar that stops paying someone else forever, every single year, for as long as you would have otherwise carried it. That $1,500 you threw at the loan back in April wasn't just $1,500 leaving your account. It was $90 a year in interest that will never leave your pocket again. Not this year, not next year, not the year after that. A $1,500 decision made once in April keeps paying you back, quietly, every single year going forward, and it never sends you a thank you note either. The loan app doesn't send a notification when the balance drops. There's no confetti animation, no badge that says good job, you're winning. Just a slightly smaller number sitting where a slightly bigger one used to be. It just goes quiet. The number gets smaller, and nobody claps. And honestly, you almost forget to notice it yourself most months. You just glance at the total, register that it's moving in the right direction, and close the app. Debt doesn't announce when it stops winning. It just goes quiet. $890. Alternator plus labor. The mechanic tells you the number with the tone people use when they're expecting an argument, like he's already bracing for you to ask for a payment plan. You don't argue. You open the savings app instead of reaching for a credit card. $4,200 sitting there, doing nothing, technically. Earning some small percentage you never really think about. The way you don't think about the air pressure in your tires until one of them's flat, and suddenly, it's the only thing you're thinking about. You pay it, card goes through on the first try. Nobody asks you to come back tomorrow with a different form of payment. You're mildly annoyed for about an hour. Mostly at the timing, mostly because you'd rather have spent that money on literally anything else. Then, you're not thinking about it anymore. You're thinking about what's for dinner, whether you have enough rice left, whether it's worth stopping at the store on the way home. That's it. That's the whole story. There's genuinely nothing else to tell, which is exactly the point and exactly why nobody tells stories about it. You know what this would have looked like a few years ago, because you lived a version of it. Same repair, put on a card at 24%, still paying it off nearly a year later, watching the balance barely move some months, because the minimum payment was mostly covering interest. $890 turning into something closer to $1,100 by the time it's finally gone. Not because of a bad decision in the moment. The car still needed to get fixed either way. Just because the cushion wasn't built yet, and when there's no cushion, the bill doesn't disappear. It just moves somewhere more expensive. Here's what almost nobody says plainly about an emergency fund, and it's worth saying plainly. It's not there to make you money. It's not supposed to be exciting, and if it ever feels exciting, something's probably gone wrong. It's there to buy you stability, not returns. Those are two completely different things. And most people don't learn the difference until the exact moment they need one and only have the other. Boring is the whole product here. $4,200, sitting completely still, doing nothing dramatic, is exactly what turns a potential crisis into just a Tuesday with an extra errand tacked onto it. The raise hit in March, $6,000 more a year than you made 12 months before. Not life-changing, but real. The kind of number that shows up clearly on a pay stub. Same apartment, same car with the check engine light you keep meaning to look at, the one that's been on so long it stopped registering as urgent and started feeling like part of the dashboard. A friend got a similar raise around the same time, close enough it doesn't matter. Within a month, she'd signed a lease on a nicer building, a gym in the lobby she uses sometimes, a package room with actual shelves instead of a cart shoved by the front door. Rent went up $400 a month for her. She seems genuinely happy about it, and there's no reason to think she isn't. She valued comfort sooner. You're valuing flexibility later. Neither of you got it wrong. You just made two different trades with two very similar $6,000 raises. And neither trade is the correct one in some universal sense. They're just different bets on what matters more, right now, in your specific life. Here's the part actually worth remembering. The sentence that explains almost everything about why some people's raises seem to vanish. A raise only builds wealth if your spending grows slower than your income does. That's the entire mechanism, underneath every other piece of advice about budgets and percentages. It's not complicated math. It's just rarely said out loud, so most people never hear it, and their raises quietly disappear into a slightly nicer version of the exact same paycheck-to-paycheck life they had before the raise. You don't know exactly why you didn't upgrade anything this time. It wasn't a spreadsheet decision, not really. You just kept living the way you were living, and the extra $6,000 had nowhere obvious to go, so it went somewhere quiet instead. 20 years of that gap, hers spent on a nicer building, yours sitting somewhere compounding without a view, isn't a small difference by the end. It's not even close to small. It's the difference between one entire financial life and a meaningfully different one, built from the exact same starting raise. Nobody claps for the apartment you didn't upgrade. Notification on your phone, Thursday afternoon, sitting there next to a text from your mom about dinner plans. Market down 8% this week. 2 years ago, that headline would have wrecked your whole evening. You'd have opened the app 4 or 5 times before bed, watched the red number sit there, felt something tighten in your chest for no reason you could actually explain out loud to anyone. Today you read it and go make dinner. Onions first, then garlic, the usual order. $150 still moved into your index fund on the 15th. Same as always, same automatic transfer that's been running since around the same time you set up the $200 that leaves before you ever see it. You didn't do anything brave tonight. You didn't do anything at all, really. That's kind of the whole story again. You just didn't cancel it. There's a specific reason staying invested during a drop works better than it feels like it should. When prices fall, that same $150 buys more shares than it did last month. You're not trying to guess when the market's at its lowest point. Nobody can actually do that reliably, not even people whose entire job is trying. You're just buying consistently, on the same date, regardless of what the headline says that week. Over enough years, the expensive months and the cheap months average out, and the not having to guess turns out to matter more than the guessing would have. You turned off the market alerts a few months back, not because you stopped caring what happens to your money, you still care, but because you didn't need reminding anymore. Checking the balance every red headline day never once changed what you were going to do about it. The plan doesn't need you watching it work. That's kind of the entire point of having a plan in the first place. You go to bed on a night, the market dropped 8%, and you sleep completely fine, and the onions are still on the stove for a few more minutes before dinner's ready. $210. A copay you didn't budget for, tacked onto a doctor's visit you almost skipped because you weren't sure it was worth the money. Old you would have opened the banking app before agreeing to pay it, would have done the quiet mental subtraction standing right there at the counter, card halfway out of your wallet, running the numbers against rent and gas and whatever else was due that week. This time you just pay it. Card out, tap, done. Back in your pocket before the receipt even finishes printing. Didn't check the balance first. Didn't need to. 57% of people your age lie awake some nights running exactly that kind of math in their head. Rent, gas, the copay, the thing that broke last week, all of it stacking up in the dark at 11 p.m. You used to be one of them, more nights than you'd probably admit out loud. Not tonight, though. It's not because you're rich. You know you're not rich. You still check the price before you put something in the cart. You still think twice about a $40 dinner, and you'll probably keep thinking twice about it for a long while yet, maybe forever, and that's fine. It's because the noise stopped. That low, constant hum underneath every single purchase. The one that used to run quietly in the background of groceries, gas, a copay, a friend's birthday gift. It's quieter now. Most nights, you don't hear it at all. It's just gone. The way a sound you've lived with for years disappears and you only notice its absence, not its presence. Nobody puts that on a dashboard. There's no app with a little graph that says stress eliminated, yes, as of this evening. But it might be the only thing on this entire list that actually matters, underneath all the numbers. And you didn't buy it. You built it. One boring month at a time, 7 quiet decisions, stacked before this one, none of them dramatic enough to ever end up on anyone's feed. Somewhere tonight, someone else your age opens Instagram. Their thumb stops on a story, a pool, a drink with a little umbrella in it, a caption that says needed this. They close the app without liking it. They don't open their banking app either. Not tonight, not at 11 p.m., because that's never when good news lives, or so they think, the same way you used to think it. They assume the silence in their account means nothing is happening. Something's happening. It's just not loud enough to post about. The life you're building won't trend today. It might quietly change every day after that.